I had to camp outside his house, and for about 6 weeks, little signs, slipping notes under his door, begging.
He was wearing a wig. I didn't recognize him.
And
I thought it was Fran Drescher.
yes, it finally just wore him down.
That will do it, you know. It always does. As I've said before, I wouldn't have probably done something like this for any other composer, but it's almost been such a perfect pairing that I almost thought it was too obvious and have avoided it for so many years. But then I felt that there was such a shitty landscape of modern music that I had to stand up and represent a path paved bravely by him.
Well, likewise, it was a similar thing from my side, because had they come to me and asked me a list of artists which I would like to see, Manson's name would have been on there, having already tried to procure his talents on an earlier film and been shot down very quickly. But in this situation with Disney, I would have thought I have even less chances than the last show, and they came to me and said, we're thinking of putting together this project, here's who we're interested in. And they listened to me and they said, Marilyn Manson. I go, what? You're saying this to me? I said, well, you definitely have my blessing if you could make this happen. So it was kind of funny, because there was a 5-year delay between when I went out there trying to bring Manson into a project, and then finally here's a project, and Disney's coming to me with his name. I said, this is just too crazy.
I took one picture with Mickey Mouse at the Pirates of the Caribbean premiere, and that's what you have to do.
And it just goes to show
take a picture with Mickey Mouse, and then you're good.
These things pay off.
Who did you take a picture
with? Mickey Mouse. Those pictures weren't supposed to get on the internet, but they did.
Those ones.
Yeah. It was totally Manson's show. I mean, I was just like a godfather. I was like, Corleone in a back room going, here's some, and they go, yeah, that looks like a good idea. Yeah. So that was my entire association.
I was very concerned about it being true to the orchestration that he had originally done, even if we did it with different instruments, with keyboards or with guitars and things like that. So one part of it was staying true to him, and the other part of it was it not sounding like me singing to the original. So it was a fine line of that, and I was happy that he liked it when he heard it.
Yeah, I was really pleased. And had we talked before he cut the tune, I would have just encouraged him to do whatever he felt he should do, and wouldn't have given him any direction at all, because I think that would be probably a negative thing. So had we, which we didn't, I wouldn't have said anything but do your thing.
Nobody said anything, that's the problem. So it's probably like when you did it originally. Because if someone had given me direction, I might have probably taken it. But I actually, was able to be very schizophrenic and musically and sing all these different characters. And originally when I said I sang it in 2 days, and the first time I sang it was as one performance. So I was surprised how embedded it was in my system, because I knew it, even though I didn't think I was going to know it. When you sit down, it's like when you go to do karaoke. It seems like when you're singing along, you can do it. Then you get up in front of a bunch of drunk Asian women, everything changes. But
everything.
Yeah, it changes you. I then went back and I thought I wanted to make it as much like the characters, but I suppose sounding like one person. So I think I ultimately did what he did. Instinctually, my way has always been to go against what's obvious. So this would be something I would normally avoid because it just seems too right. And then I just felt like maybe it's right for a reason, and the song ended up making me want to make a new record. I sang, and then I suddenly got excited about music again. So I think it really covers a lot of generations. I mean, we're kind of from a similar time, and but then I meet people that are much younger than me that like it and know it better than I do. I actually had to consult someone younger than me
Wow,
to
interesting.
recite the lyrics.
No shit.
Yeah, I like to have young girls sit on my lap when I sing.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah, no, I didn't say I did. I just said I like to.
That's
a
what worked for
disclaimer.
me when I was doing the demos in the first place. But
It's market research.
market research shows that works well. But when I created it many years earlier, I mean, obviously I wasn't thinking about it connecting with any generation. But like Manson is saying, my approach when I did it was just to kind of go against the grain. And at that time, musicals all were very Broadway in a certain way that didn't connect with me at all. And the one thing that Tim and I talked about trying to make happen with the Nightmare was that the songs, we would try to do songs in a way that felt like they could be almost from any era, but not contemporary. So there was the whole creation of Nightmare songs were a rejection of contemporary musical. And I knew that I would catch a lot of crap for it, and I did. I mean, I got the worst reviews of my life and career for Nightmare and the music. I mean, I actually got this woman from the LA Weekly, hysterical, "Don't with Christmas," was her headline in the review.
That's nice.
And it is good.
Let's find her.
I would have
and
quoted that.
Let's
She's alive and well, right? It's for the New York
experience.
Times.
Let's associate her with the what would you call them? I guess the practices of prison. Whatever.
Yeah.
I've never been in prison. Jail one. But that was erased from my.
Yeah, well, I
I was charged as a sex offender for fornicating with a security guard's neck, but I was found innocent. I still
did
consider
hard
myself
time.
a sex offender.
When I first conjured up the ideas for the songs, I was in a LA County jail cell. Shaquille O'Neal was my.
Heard of.
Yeah, he was in at the same time, and he was my protector.
I was snowed into a hotel in the Billy Joel Allentown, literally, with Sesame Street on ice and Shaquille O'Neal for 3 days.
See, it's amazing how things cross over in life, because he has this story about Shaquille O'Neal, and I was Shaquille O'Neal's bitch for 3 months in LA County.
And we both like Sesame Street on ice.
Exactly. So it's just weird, isn't it? When I did it, it was like very consciously, I'm doing a bunch of songs and none of them will even remotely feel like a rock tune. I wanted them to feel like they could have come from the 30s or the 40s or the 50s or the 60s, stopping around the 70s, like this couldn't have been written. My influences were Kurt Weill and Gilbert and Sullivan, and
Actually, the Volksbühnen Theater, where Kurt Weill first did the Three-Penny Opera, I did a sort of cabaret version of my Golden Age of Grotesque record when it came out, and I sang Alabama song there.
Oh.
It was very interesting. They don't normally let people like me in there. So I like Kurt Weill.
Yeah.
I see where it came from.
Yeah. And so...
People said I really liked that Doors song you did.
Yeah, of course. Everybody, there's several generations now that think it's a Doors song, but that's natural. However, there's probably a generation that
Yeah, they're gonna think that I wrote Nightmare Before Christmas.
exactly, and then you know what?
So I'm gonna take all the credit for it.
It's fine with me. It's absolutely fine. So, but it was the idea was not to sound like rock. That's why it's so ironic and weird that would come around. I think, what is this now, 37 years later, since it was written as a rock tune. And I also got to hear the theme to Pee-wee's Big Adventure played by Primus in a live concert in New York.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say your cell phone.
No, with a... Ouch.
No, I do that.
I saw about like 1,000 kids in a great mosh pit circle to Pee-wee via Primus. So, You know, it's weird how things kind of come around. And of course, I never expected when I wrote this tune back in 37. Did I say 37 years ago? It was 37 when I wrote it, that it would find its way to Manson's version now. You know, it's like you just, these things are impossible to imagine when you're doing them at the time. And especially that thing at that time, which seemed such a bizarre, off-the-wall project. And you know, and I think, as I've mentioned many times, by the time it was coming out, it looked like no one was going to ever see it anyhow. So it was almost like a moot point. It was already perceived as a failure before it opened. Well, that's always the big drag pressure thing about film music. Is that you do a lot of them, and there's a lot of music. So I've done 60 scores and, 60, 70 minutes in each one. So when you're doing that much music, and I'll do maybe 3 in a year, it's hard to you can't not duplicate yourself. And so I'm always aware of falling into a trap of doing something that, everybody knows that's what I do and it's easy for me to do. I try to not do that as often as I can, but sometimes I can't help it. But that's always an internal pressure that I feel. And the only way around that is just not maybe do one film score every 2 or 3 years. And it just doesn't work out
I
that way.
personally, just as a fan, was impressed that everybody perceived a certain, I guess, cartoonish or like more of a fun kind of element to what you did when you started doing some darker things, that it was great and it worked and it really kind of kept you from being known as just one thing.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm still trying not to be known as one thing.
No, I think
It's
it's just known as something that's quality that people like.
Like a brand name.
Yes.
Right.
I've always done, I think the things that I've considered to be outrageous aren't really the things that have stood out to people. Because what people find to be outrageous a lot of times is very normal for people like he and I.
I would say that's true.
Yeah. So it sounds funny when we're talking about necrophiliac love stories that he wants to make a movie of, because, just the sentence itself normally
Provokes
which kids you
sitcom.
kids you should not have necrophiliac love affairs.
Doesn't
I
it
should just say Disney instructed me to tell people, do not have necrophiliac love affairs or take LSD or wear black panties when listening to my version of his song. These things all should not be done. That I had to say. I was
That's
required
right.
by law.
Don't do it.
But I think maybe what doing the track inspired me was to be less afraid and less ashamed to be a singer. Because despite popular belief, I can sing. Unfortunately, I didn't mean to when I started. But I've grown to like singing, and I forgot about it until I did this. So the new stuff that I started recording after this, sung in a very different way, different type of range and things like that.
And I, for one, can't wait to hear it.
I can't either because I'm making it up. It's the blackouts again.
Didn't really go in the studio at all, did you?
No. He f***ed with Christmas. I'm helping bring the f***ing with Halloween back, because I've always really not been able to enjoy Halloween because I'm me. So, there's 2 holidays in one killed. He's introduced that, not everyone can kill 2 holidays at once.
Well, we thank Tim Burton for that, actually. I just helped. But I couldn't anticipate, working on that thing, that it would have any lasting effect at all. So of all the things I worked on, if there was any one that seemed like it was going to fail, that I would be most pleased about, that would find an audience after many years, it would be this project. Because, usually I'm on a film for 3 months. 10 weeks, 12 weeks, and here I was on a film for the first time in my life for 2 years and 3 months. And so when it looked like it was dying, it just killed. And so to have it a decade later, it was suddenly like, yeah, people are still, they're into that, and there's like it's like still out there. Was a very weird surprise. But like I said, out of the 60 things I've done, if I was going to pick one that I would go, I just wish that one would find an audience down the line, because they never do. Films, they just never do. When they die, they die. And 1 out of a million will have the luck of becoming a zombie and coming back to life later. And this was one of those lucky zombies. But this would be the one, because I was real proud of it. And Tim was really, his whole design and everything he put into it was brilliant. And Selleck, everybody worked so hard on it, and kind of looked like no one's going to see this thing. It's like, it sucks. And then years later, I'm in there with Tim Burton in Tokyo. This was just a year ago, opening for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and there's Jack Skellington and Sally stuff all over the toy stores everywhere. And it didn't really dawn on me, really, until then, that it had, in a subversive way, entered some kind of undercurrent and moved around. It got caught in a riptide of some current and spread, and it was a great feeling.
I was excited to be a part of kind of declaring its longevity. I think that's what this re-release does. It kind of
thank you for that.
Puts it in the, I guess, alongside all of the other Christmas movies, like The Santa Claus, which is another favorite of mine. I never saw that. I'm just kidding.